हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू मनु लॉ क्लासेस। आई एम गौतम दीक्षित। आज के इस वीडियो में हम सितंबर 30 2021 का न्यूज़पेपर एनालिसिस करेंगे, डेली हिंदू न्यूज़ एनालिसिस। सो लेट्स गो टू सम इम्पोर्टेंट न्यूज़। सो सम ऑफ द इम्पोर्टेंट न्यूज़ विच यू हैव टू पे अटेंशन टू इज दैट नून मील प्रोग्राम, जिसे हम मिड डे मील स्कीम भी कहते हैं, इट विल बी रीनेम्ड एज प्राइम मिनिस्टर पोषण स्कीम। देन तालिबान हैज रिक्वेस्टेड डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ सिविल एविएशन इन इंडिया टू अलाउ अफगान कैरियर्स to resume flights from India. उसके बाद जापान में अगेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैज चेंज, नाउ फूमियो किशिदा विल बी द नेक्स्ट जापानीज प्राइम मिनिस्टर. देन India and Australia, the women's cricket team of India and Australia, they will play day-night test match with pink ball. This will be the first match with pink ball. Now the first is that the Supreme Court has said that the preliminary inquiry by the CBI into the firecracker industry has revealed that there is a rampant violation of the ban imposed by Supreme Court, especially the use of toxic ingredients like barium and its salt. So it was the investigation led by the CBI Joint Director in Chennai. Now see important points. In January 2017, Supreme Court banned the 5 toxic chemicals according to the Central Pollution Control Board. So these were antimony, lithium, mercury, arsenic and lead. So these were the toxic elements according to the CPCB, and the Supreme Court had already banned it, but certain firecrackers industries in Tamil Nadu, they were still using it along with barium and salt, which causes pollution. So the Supreme Court had banned it. Now the firecrackers industries, they had appealed to Supreme Court that there are many people who are employed in this firecracker industry, but Supreme Court has not given them any weightage. Now Nipah antibodies, it has been found in bat samples in Kerala. So Nipah virus, which is a zoonotic virus, its antibody has been collected from certain bats in Kerala, but there are still no clues that how the virus traveled or transmitted from bats to human. Now in this article, Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna awardee Deepak Malik, she is the first woman from India to win a medal in the Paralympic Games, and currently she is the president of the Paralympic Committee of India. In this interview, she has highlighted that how the condition of India, the position of India improved from Rio Paralympics to Tokyo Paralympics. In Rio Paralympics, India was at 43rd spot, but in Tokyo Paralympic game, our medal tally had improved and India was ranked at 24th. So over here she has made the mention of very important scheme which is called as Target Olympic Podium Scheme. Target Olympic Podium Scheme. Target Olympic Podium Scheme. In this scheme, it is a flagship scheme of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. It was launched in 2014. It aims to provide aid, especially financial aid, to top athletes, in enabling them to win medals in Olympics and other international sports. It also includes out-of-pocket allowances and providing support staff for the sports person. Now the Defence Acquisition Council has approved the acquisition proposal of rupees 13,165 crore. Now over here there is a mention of light helicopter, advanced light helicopter squadron in the Indian Army. So Indian Army is right now planning to raise advanced light helicopter squadron in Army to improve its integral lift capability, ensuring its operational preparedness. So now the Defence Acquisition Council has given approval for procurement of 25 advanced light helicopters or ALH Mark III helicopters from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Along with that, in order to boost indigenization, indigenous design and development of ammunition, the DAC has also approved the procurement of terminally guided munition and rocket ammunition under Buy India condition. Now good news, Bansari Lal Arande, who was the leading pharmacist in Kabul, who was kidnapped few days back. Now he has been released and he is living with his brother currently. Now, Taliban urges DGCA to resume Afghan flights. So, Taliban government in Afghanistan, they wrote to India's DGCA or Directorate General of Civil Aviation and requested them for resumption of commercial flights between two countries. Now, this letter was addressed to DGCA by Alja Hamidullah Akhundzada, who is the acting minister of Afghanistan Civil Aviation Authority. Now, 24 lakh pre-primary students to get meals. Now, over here, there are certain important point. Now see, the center has rebranded the 26-year-old National Midday Meal Scheme to give hot cooked meal to 11.8 crore government school students currently from classes 1 to 8. From classes 1 to 8. So this is important, from classes 1 to 8. Now this scheme, which is called as Midday Meal Scheme, it will be now rebranded as PM Poshan Scheme, Poshan Shakti Nirman Scheme. Okay, now the next important point, that the extension of midday meals to pre-primary students, okay, who are to be incorporated in the formal education. Now the National Education Policy 2020 maintains including pre-primary education into formal education system. Okay, now the midday meal will be extended to these pre-primary school students also, and the population of Bal Vatikas, which offer 1 year of preschool classes, is expected to rise from the existing 24 lakh. Now, why we need this scheme? So, see, the aim is to focus on holistic nutrition goals, okay, and increase the enrollment. तो जैसे जो गरीब बच्चे होते हैं, ठीक है, midday meal scheme is one of the approach of increasing enrollment in school as well as increasing the nutrition level in the children. तो इसके दो गोल होते हैं. Now coming to the next news. So in this news is interview, but there are certain data in this news which is very important. So the interview is of Arjan Dev Wagh, who is the head of nutrition UNICEF. So he has presented a account of India's nutrition level. So he mentions that in India, if you will see the level of nutrition, then we will see that 1/3 of children under 5 years of age in India are stunted, then 1/3 of them are underweight, and almost 2 out of 10 children are nutritionally wasted. Okay, and many of these children are currently suffering from multiple anthropometric disease, deficits. Then the launch of Poshan Abhiyan in March 2018, it has refocused the national development agenda on nutrition, but then came COVID-19 and which disrupted and imposed a greater danger on nutrition front. Now COVID-19 is how COVID-19 affects the nutritional level in country. So if you will see, first of all, there is a containment zone to prevent the spread of virus. Okay, so what happens with this is that the movement of people is restricted, so there is direct impact on livelihood, there is price hike of foods, and there is a disruption of supply chain. So because of this, the nutritional outcome of the population, it suffers. Secondly, that food insecurity and nutritional insecurity, rise in inflation, all these things occurs. So there is an impact on nutrition. The third is the whole health sector is geared towards controlling COVID-19. So there is very less focus on health and social services, okay, such as Anganwadi centers, nutrition rehabilitation center, and village health sanitization and nutrition days. So when these are disrupted, so definitely the nutrition level suffers. Now let's talk about children. The midday meal scheme and folic acid tablets, which are iron and folic acid tablets, which are given to students when they attend the school, even this service was also impacted. Okay, so there is a threat over it. So if we want to improve the situation, so we have to first have a strong leadership, which is essential to bring back focus back on nutritional security. Second, that we should ensure coverage of essential nutrition services. The third is that during COVID-19 pandemic, we need innovation in healthcare services so that there can be a focus on nutrition, then adequate financial assistance for delivery of nutritional food to the population. These are some of the factors which can be adopted to fight this challenge. Now, our Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla will visit Colombo soon, so it is to be followed by the visit of our External Affairs Minister S. Subramaniam's visit to Sri Lanka. Okay, so over here now what is happening over here is that the Chinese presence in Sri Lanka through investment, okay, is increasing. For example, if you will see, the Colombo Port City project is one of those important projects in which China has a very substantial investment. Then second important thing is Tamil issue. That Tamil issue is a problem between India and China. India wants political solution for Tamil issues, the Tamil people who are residing in Sri Lanka. Okay. The third issue is the recent issues when India was not allowed to construct the eastern coast terminal of Sri Lanka along with Japan. There was a contract between Sri Lanka and India and Japan that Indian and Japanese company will develop eastern coastal terminal. Later that contract was cancelled, and in lieu western coast terminal development was given to India. So these are some issues which are going to be discussed. Now defining the exemptions from data protection law. Now see, the data protection law is under joint parliamentary committee consideration. It has not been passed, and there is some important objections raised by the members of this standing committee. According to them, the data protection has the data protection clause, which relates that the data protection given to the generator of the data, means common citizens, can be revoked, or there will be exemptions from all any provisions of the law and for any agency. So suppose if some agency they want exemption from data protection law on certain grounds such as sovereignty, friendly relations with foreign states, and security of the state, so this exemption can be given. But now the panel wants that we have to define that what and under what situation exemptions will be given to the law enforcement agencies. The next is that India and Australia has signed terms of reference for Navy to Navy talk. So the Indian Navy, this is the first such document signed by the Indian Navy with any country. That is a term of reference. The term of reference is for the conduct of Navy to Navy talks under the framework of the joint guidance, joint guidance for the India-Australia Navy to Navy relationship. Now see what are the important points in this. The document says the Navy to talk as the principal medium for guiding the bilateral cooperation. The next is the document will be pivotal in consolidating the shared commitment to promoting peace, prosperity, stability and security, especially in Indo-Pacific region. Okay, now there will be flexibility for the implementation of agreement based on outcomes of the talks. Okay, then it highlights the close cooperation between two navies, including at Indian Ocean Naval Synopsym, Western Pacific Naval Symposium, and then Indian Ocean Rim Association. You have to understand this news in the background of AUKUS. Now AUKUS, the Trilateral Security Alliance, envisages the supply of nuclear submarines to Australia for a new architecture, defense architecture, okay, in Indian Ocean region. Now this India-Australia's terms of reference from between navies will strengthen the India's position in Indo-Pacific region vis-a-vis China. The next is that Cabinet approves ECGC listing rupees 6,000 crore for export cover. So the Cabinet on Wednesday they approved an infusion of rupees 6,000 crore into those financial companies who are providing export insurance cover. It will lead to increase in export growth, okay, to rupees 5.6 lakh crore over 5 years. Then it has also approved the listing of the state run, means government run Export Credit Guarantee Corporation on the stock exchanges. Now the shares of ECGC can be listed on the stock exchanges. The next important news coming is about government extends emergency credit scheme till March. So we are talking here about emergency credit line guarantee scheme. Emergency credit line guarantee scheme. Okay, the term of this scheme was going to end on September 30th, but now government has extended it to March 22nd. This scheme was passed in the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic, when businesses were closing down, especially MSME sector. Then this scheme provided the necessary funds to MSME sector to stay on and to not get closed. Now about the H1B visa. So only one thing important about H1B visa program of United Nations is that the H1B visa program allows employers in the US to temporarily employ foreign workers in positions needing specialized knowledge. So for example, if there is any IT MNC IT company in United States and it has a subsidiary company in India, now for some projects in United States it needs the professionals from India, so they can travel to US and they can work over there under H1B visa. Now the next Japanese Prime Minister will be Fumio Kishida. He is from the ruling party of Japan. Now the former Prime Minister, who is Yoshihide Suga, he had to resign because he had become unpopular, especially the way the COVID-19 cases were handled in Japan. So this created a problem over there. So and Japan is going to election next month in November, sorry. So there was a change of guard so that the popularity of the party, which is Liberal Democratic Party, should not go down. Now there is one Russian television channel, or Russia Today channel. It runs a German channel which was banned by YouTube, and then it was warned by Russia that it should not do such things. Now Tunisia's president has appointed Najla Bouden as the first woman prime minister designate of Tunisia. Now Adani is going to sign a contract with Sri Lanka Port Authority to jointly develop West Container Terminal. I was referring to this in the earlier article. So there was East Container Terminal, and West Container Terminal. So earlier the East Container Terminal, the development of East Container Terminal was to be done by Japan and India, but later on, due to pressure from Buddhist monks and strikes by trade unions, the contract was cancelled, and then Adani Group was allowed to develop West Coast Terminal. Now India is confident of doing well in maiden day-night test. Mithali Raj, she is our Indian women team captain, and Australia and India are going to play first day-night test cricket match with pink ball. Now about the editorial, a scheme before its time. So now see, the article is now talking about the National Digital Health Mission. Under this mission, a health ID with 14-digit health identification number will be given to anyone who is enrolling in this scheme. It will contain details of every test, every disease, doctors visited, medicines taken, and the diagnosis. Okay, so it will offer the portability. It means that the doctor who is examining the patient, he or she can easily access the history of the patient, and then likewise based on the history and current condition can refer the treatment accordingly. But now the next paragraph of the article highlights that this is not everything. The health infrastructure in India needs more than that. And so because the challenge of healthcare in India are that we have few hospitals with trained staff to cater to all Indians, and expanding healthcare system is not very easy, especially given the India's federal structure, the size of its population, and especially the largely the rural population. Then the cost of research finding and buying appropriate drugs and treatment, competing systems of medicine, and the very challenging nature of health itself. So these are the problems where the government should focus, especially when we are out of the pandemic and there is a looming threat of third wave. The third important is the privacy issue related to health IDs. Now suppose the history of all the patients are uploaded over there, so any insurance companies can access those data, and according to that they can design a insurance policy based on those diseases which are maximum prevalent in India, and they can raise the price of such insurance. The next is about the Japan, that change of guard by PM Kishida. So Fumio Kishida is from Liberal Democratic Party, the ruling party in Japan. Now he will be elected. Now the problem with the Japan has been mentioned, that the new leadership change which is going to take place has to focus on COVID situation, then rise of China, and the rise of new security alliance in Indo-Pacific. Then the next is a fund without care. So it is the article is about PM Care Fund. So if you will see, yeah, so over here we have to first see the full form of PM Care Fund. So the full form of PM Care Fund is the Prime Minister Citizens Assessment and Relief in Emergency Situation, that is PM Care Fund. Is the PM Care Fund only fund which was created during COVID-19 pandemic? No, we have other funds also, that is National Disaster Response Fund, which was created under the Disaster Management Act of 2005. Now the NDRF, since it is created under the Act, so it is accountable and answerable under the RTI Act. Then the next is that similarly we have State Disaster Response Fund and District Disaster Response Fund. Okay, but the PM Care Fund is only created at the सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट लेवल. जैसे कि अगर हम NDRF की बात करें तो NDRF तो जैसे डिजास्टर रिस्पॉन्स फंड, it is at the national level also, it is at the state level also, it is at the local level also, but the PM Care Fund is only at the central government level. Okay, it is not decentralized. Then there is another fund which was created during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru in 1948 for the relief and rehabilitation of refugees who had come from Pakistan, that is called as Prime Minister National Relief Fund. Prime Minister's National Relief Fund. So this is the fund. But now this article is going to examine one thing, is that the PM Care Fund has to be under the ambit of RTI. The government's stand is that PM Care Fund is not a public authority and hence it cannot be covered under RTI. But this article is demystifying the stand of government. So now see how it is demystifying the stand of government. The thing is that it here says that PM Care Fund was neither created by the Constitution of India nor by any statute. ये government का stand है. Now if we see that how author is refuting it, so author is saying that if it is not created by the Constitution of India nor by any statute, that under what authority it is using the name of Prime Minister, it is using the designated symbols of the nation, the tricolor and the official website of the PMO, under what authority it is granting tax concessions to those people who will contribute to PM Care Fund. The second point raised by the government authorities are that the amount received by the fund does not go to Consolidated Fund of India. Now any fund which is not going to the Consolidated Fund of India, it means that it cannot be examined by CAG, it cannot be audited by CAG. Okay, fine. So it is open to corruption. So it is saying that the amount should go to Consolidated Fund of India. The third claim is that the PM Care Fund, okay, it is under trust. So the trust, the government is saying that this trust is neither intended to be or not owned substantially or not financially or not substantially financed by the central government or state government or any instrumentality of government. But here the stand of the author is that then how come the Prime Minister is the ex officio chairman and 3 cabinet ministers are the ex officio members of PM Care Fund. The next is that that some government officer provides ex gratia services to the public trust is of no relevance. A government officer providing secretarial assistance on an honorary basis while discharging his official duties can never be a relevant consideration for declaring a body to be public authority. This is the stand of government, that some government officer, okay, they are doing extra services for PM Care Fund, but that does not mean that it becomes the public authority. Okay, but here again the point is that since the members are all the cabinet ministers and prime minister, so such argument does not hold. Then second is that about the funding avenues, that from where the funds are coming. So the stand of the government is that granting certain tax exemptions with regard to voluntary donations made to the public trust is not the purpose of section 2H of the RTI Act. इसका मतलब समझो कि कोई एक अगर ऐसी बॉडी है जिसने टैक्स एग्जम्पशन दिया है, सिर्फ टैक्स एग्जम्पशन देने से ही वो पब्लिक अथॉरिटी नहीं बन जाती. ओके, बट इफ यू विल सी द PM Care Fund, okay, so if you will see the section 19 of the Indian Trust Act, it mandates that trustees to present full and accurate information of the amount and state of the trust property to the beneficiaries. Okay, so here now the author is saying कि even if that is true that the PM Care Fund can mandate the tax benefit 100% exemption under 80G of Income Tax Act, then donations to PM Care Fund can qualify as a CSR under Companies Act 2013. Then the fund has exemptions under FCRA, okay, and a separate account has been maintained for receiving the foreign donations. Then also section 19 of the Indian Trust Act mandates that the trustees to present full and accurate information of the amount and state of the trust properly to the beneficiaries. Okay, so this is the important point. Now in this article is about the Darang incident. The Darang incident took place when the police in Assam wanted to evict the government land which was forcibly occupied, and then there was firings and casualties. Now this article analyzes it that whatever happened in Darang, it was not a lone incident, okay, but it is the general anti-Muslim sentiments which is there in Assam, which has already led to violence at Kokrajhar violence. So there are many violences because of this anti-Muslim sentiments. Now this anti-Muslim sentiments is because of the 1970 war in which the Bangladesh was liberated. It formed a separate country, but before the war Bangladesh was East Pakistan. It was a part of Pakistan, and the Pakistani military started committing atrocities in Bangladesh. So many people, including Muslims, they left Bangladesh and they settled in West Bengal, Tripura and Assam. Since then there is a problem in Assam about these migrants. They have not assimilated in the Assam, and some of the Assamese group view them as destroying the Assamese culture or threat to Assamese culture. Now a lesson from China on gig workers right. Now what is gig worker? गिग वर्कर का मतलब ये होता है कि जहाँ पे फॉर्मल एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय रिलेशन एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है. ओके, अ पर्सन हु परफॉर्म्स वर्क और पार्टिसिपेट्स इन अ वर्क अरेंजमेंट एंड अर्न्स फ्रॉम सच एक्टिविटीज आउटसाइड द ट्रेडिशनल एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय रिलेशनशिप. फॉर एग्जांपल स्विगी ने या ऊबर ने कुछ लोगों को रख रखा है काम करने के लिए, बट दे डोंट शेयर दैट एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय रिलेशनशिप. ओके, वहाँ पे क्या होता है कि यू गेट एन ऑर्डर, यू हैव टू डिलीवर दैट, यू विल जस्ट गेट द मनी फॉर डिलीवरिंग दैट ऑर्डर, दैट्स ऑल. ओके, बट चाइना में क्या हुआ? चाइना में देयर आर टू फूड डिलीवरी एप्स, म्यूटन एंड एली.me. उसमें से there was the pressure on them, and then what happened that they took the ownership of gig workers working with them. They registered them on an independent portal. Before that they were being registered as that they are independent businesses. Okay, so now what is happening over here is that can the same thing happen in India? So in India, it was the COVID-19 situation which highlighted the importance of such workers. Okay, earlier there was no we did not recognize the important contribution made by these workers, with the gig workers working with Zomato and Swiggy and taxi aggregators such as Ola and Uber. Okay, so when there was a strike in Hyderabad for their rights, because the food portal Swiggy decreased their remuneration from rupees 35 to rupees 15 per order. Okay, so over here there should be some regulation for gig workers. Okay, just as we saw in China. Then bad bank and bad loans, this topic is very important. Bad bank and bad loan, if you will see, so we will just look at the figures. So the gross NPA of industries in all banks, okay, as of 2022 December is 3,41,634 crore. ओके, सिर्फ इंडस्ट्री का। अगर हम टोटल लोन अमाउंट देखें विच वॉज रिटर्न ऑफ बाई बैंक्स बिटवीन 2014 एंड 2020, इट वॉज 8,77,855 करोड़. Amount of bad loans recovered through various means between 2014 and 2020 is 4,13,108 crore. Now अगर हम बैड लोन्स की बात करें तो सबसे ज़्यादा बैड लोन्स जो है वो इंडस्ट्रीज़ का ही है. द इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर दे कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट ₹3.4 lakh crore एज द बैड लोन. नाउ टू डील विद दिस बैड लोन द गवर्नमेंट हैज़ come up with bad bank. Okay, so National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited. Now the objective is to deal with ₹2 lakh crore of NPAs which are with the banks. So that's all for today. We will meet tomorrow again with the Daily Hindu News Analysis. Take care. Have a nice day. Thank you.